and sit down.
Welcome, everybody, to the 3POA podcast, episode 36. It is great to be back. We got a great show for you. I am your host, LaserPants, also known as Ryan. I am joined, as always, by my good friend and yours, the man behind Analog Toys, who put out a great video today. The Desert Rat himself, Tony Roberts. What's up, Tony?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Sorry for
How
the slight delay. You Americans should know that I don't know when your clocks go back.
Yeah, right?
I thought I had another hour yet.
I should have said something. Yeah, it was last week. They went forward. Yeah, spring forward. I thought every year they say, "Oh, this is the last year. This is the last year," and then it happens again the next year. So it needs to end already. But anyway, how was the fight?
The Englishman won. That's the main thing.
Right on.
I don't know what the scores were, but yeah.
Cool. All right. We are also joined by our other very good friend, the man behind Action Force, Valaverse, the CEO of Valaverse. He put together a great Vala fair 2 weeks ago. The one, the only, Bobby Vala. What's up, Bobby?
What's up, gang?
Good couple weeks. Busy?
Good couple weeks. Shit, man,
Yeah.
I've been busy. I finally got a post up on social media. I had all these expectations to when Vala Fair was done, I'm gonna post everything from Vala Fair. But it was Vala Fair ended, and it was oh hey, since you've been horsing around doing Vala Fair, you got real work to do now. So I just got caught up catching up on things, and then I had that convention in Mass last weekend, so it was just a lot. But I'll be back at it this week.
Convention went well, it looks like.
Convention went really well, yeah. Friday was a little slow, but anytime you're dealing with a 3-day convention, the first day tends to be a little slow, unless it's Joe Fest at the Vala booth, and then that line's out the door for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Saturday was we never had a break on Saturday, but it was a good show. A lot of people. I did some shopping myself.
Nice.
Yeah.
Maybe we should talk pickups after we bring in our guest. That might be kind of cool.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, we have a very special guest, another creator in the toy community. Very, very hyped to have him on the show. Very hyped for his line. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of excitement for this line in the community. If you follow me on social, you've been seeing posts about Savage Crucible. And so our guest tonight is the one and the only Rob Post. Rob, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for coming on and talking about your line, Savage Crucible.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now I got through all that. All right.
Let's get into it.
I actually backed the Kickstarter earlier today. I had been procrastinating and waiting, but today I had some time. I went through. I didn't go all in on anything, but I picked and chose quite a bit. So I'm in on this line, man. I'm really excited for what you're doing. And
Thank you. I
I know,
appreciate that.
yeah, and I know Bobby, you backed it too
Yeah.
a week or so ago.
I wanted to and I had it on a post-it in my office to back it like this the second it came up. And then I just got busy and I was like, oh man, I wanted to get on it early. Luckily, it was only a few days, but I got in. I think I went all in on something, one of the packages.
I think
But I'm excited, man.
Yeah.
I'm psyched. It's gonna be cool.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm blown away by the response so far, to be really honest. That's really great that you guys are supporting us. So can't say enough.
It's been incredibly successful, man. Like, did that surprise you how the Kickstarter just took off like that?
Yes. So ironically, I did it on midnight Eastern of the launch date. And the reason for that was it would be 11 p.m. Central where I was, and I could just go to sleep. And then I didn't have to sit there and click refresh for 8 hours. I never thought in a million years that it would like fund in under 7 hours. I thought it would take like a week or two. And I thought like best case scenario, we'd break like 300,000 by the end of it. So yes, I was completely caught off guard. That's actually why it took a whole extra week to start posting stretch goals, because I did not think that we would get blown out of the water the way we did. So, but I'm happy. I'm very happy, thrilled to death. And, I modeled it after looking at a lot of different Kickstarters and trying to learn from everybody that came before me and just how they went about their approach. So when I was doing all my projections and trending, all that went out the water in the first 6 hours. So
did you know that there was going to be so many action figure Kickstarters going at the same time?
No.
Yeah.
I knew one, and then within like 2 weeks, I found out about the other one, and I was just like, okay, here we go. And then I think there's another one starting in a week or two, or sometime in maybe this Defenders of Eden starts in a couple of weeks as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Defenders of Eden. Man, that's a lot. Yeah, because there's the two Bible ones, and then the High School Creations Wall XD. That started. I backed that one too. So I got all kinds of money going out the door. But
yeah, I really like the modularity on he's got going with his.
Yeah, it looks cool. But when I first saw Savage Crucible, my first thought was, well, this guy's brave. Whoever's doing this is brave. Because it seems like in the fantasy space, it's been very dominated by Mythic Legions. But then as I clicked through and looked at what you were doing, it had its own uniqueness to it, like big time. So what kind of inspired you? Well, actually, before we get to that, how did you start in the community?
So I'm a collector. I actually used to collect Mythic Legions. And as you guys, I'm sure, are aware, I had this other little 3D printing hobby that I started 3+ years ago called My Action Figure Customs. And basically, I just started on a whim. I just bought a printer, and I was actually trying to make some custom parts for myself, customizing some of my figures. And I had 2 weeks off for Christmas and just was like, I've never made a website before. I'll make a website, and I'll sell a couple of these and just kind of recoup my sculpting costs. And yeah, that kind of, by a year later, it was just a crazy amount of volume that we were doing. I'm just kind of branched out. I had a lot of friends that were sculptors, some professional, some very talented that hadn't reached the professional level yet. And it just kind of made sense. Like, we were doing all these great designs. We knew that nobody else was going to start really pushing out the kind of characters that we wanted. So going back to your original question, it really was that fantasy is pretty broad, and there's a lot of type of characters that I really wanted to see that I didn't see out there. And that's what really prompted us to start Savage Crucible. So
it started with the 3D printing business, myactionfigurecustoms.com. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people, I never got anything myself because I never collected Mythic Legions. I have a couple now. I got that Ice Troll right there behind me, which I actually just got from Articulated Ninja. Thank you, Ninja. But I kind of wanted to dip my toe in, and even more so once I got the Mezco Conan, the first one, and now I have the second one too. But I wanted to dip my toe into the fantasy world a bit more because of that. And Mythic Legions to me now is like so daunting. There's so much. It's hard to know where to start, and the older ones are so expensive. Savage Crucible comes up, and I'm like, man, these look really cool. Fresh start. I can get in from the beginning, and so I jumped in. But so speaking of your specific line, what kind of inspired some of the characters?
So I'm a big Lovecraft fan. I love Cthulhu, that whole mythos. I used to read a lot of Ron Howard stuff, Conan based when I was a kid. Obviously inspired by the movies as well, but a lot of those fantasy comics, because I was a huge comic book kid growing up, and that's sort of where I get a lot of my feel from. It's for whatever reason, I think there's been like one Cthulhu based line. I think was like came out little 4-inch figures a couple of years ago. I can't think of the name of it, but that's pretty much all I've ever really seen in this field. And also Lizardmen. I don't think anyone has really been doing Lizardmen beside Dr. Connors out of Marvel for the most part.
Yeah.
That's the only figure you ever really see. And it's a very heavy D&D inspired line as well. So from Pathfinder to D&D. So it's just kind of hard for me to believe that there aren't more characters like this out there to purchase, just from my standpoint.
Yeah, it definitely has heavy D&D vibes. But I got to say, thanks to Brian Rowland, who put together this PowerPoint and sent it to me a couple weeks ago. He's really into this. I think he's all in for everything in this line. But he put this together. So this is wave 1, and it says shipping October, November 2023, this year.
Yeah, well, me and Bobby have been working with the same production manager for about the same length of time. So I started about 2.5 years ago, 3 years almost, working on this. And part of the way that we designed the waves was to make it a little bit easier for a factory to put it out. And I don't know what else to say. Just a lot of planning went into this. A lot of my own money went into this before we ever went to Kickstarter. So, and that's not to throw shade on anybody else. Starting a new venture like this is incredibly expensive. And so, the average person doesn't have the amount, money in their pocket to put down on tooling. So it's not unreasonable to ask people to pay for it through a Kickstarter, but when you don't have to, it allows you to speed up production, and also allows you to do a lot of things that most companies just can't do out the gate. So that's all it really boils down to. So all the money that we were making off of MAFC, we were reinvesting into Savage Crucible. So I didn't use that money to live off of. And quite frankly, I don't need Savage Crucible to live off of. So it's, once again, one of those passion projects where I can take all the profit and just put it back into the line. So this creates a lot of opportunity to build on itself and create a lot of different tooling and bring a little bit more life into the action figure world than what we've been seeing the last 5 or 6 years.
Cool. Yeah. Were you expecting the huge success? Well, we covered that, but you ended up unlocking 3 waves of action figures. So this is just the first wave here that I have on screen. You want to tell us a little bit about these characters?
Sure. So going back to the D&D inspiration, Como of the Isles is actually a hybrid character. He's half human, half Lemurian. And so he's pretty unique from that standpoint. You'll also notice that a lot of the characters have unique tooling from their armor sets and their head sculpts. And that's something that we really wanted to focus on, especially out the gate. It's, once again, not trying to throw shade on anybody, but I think we're all kind of a little tired of mold overuse, and it doesn't take a lot of money just to come up with just a couple extra parts to put on a figure. And with a little bit of planning ahead, you can get new parts in every wave. You just have to do a little bit more planning and also put a little bit more cash up front to get just to 1 or 2 pulling plates to be able to create new characters that have some unique parts, right? And so that's something that was really important to us. The whole character packs idea was, I wanted to create packs that had new tooling in them, so more of an incentive for people to purchase them. And I was also trying to get past that whole concept of, you put 3 heads and 1 character in one package and you buy it, but now you want to make 3 of them. So you buy 3. Well, that's great, but now you have 9 heads and 3 bodies. And like how often can you do that? So, and I get it. Like, there's been some complaints because people want the extra heads to be in with the characters. And I'm like, yeah, but you only have to buy 3 of the characters and 1 extra character pack, and you don't waste all that plastic. It's just a different way about going about it, just to create those extra characters. So, and we want to do something very fun. The Savage character and the Slate character were sort of our ways to create army builders, but also the Slate was very important to me to sort of promote the customizing community.
Mhm.
I think that's a really important community for every toy line, because those are the guys that are doing the free advertising for you when you think about it, because they're out there on Instagram, they're posting their custom figures, and that creates that extra word of mouth that you really need. And so I think giving them a figure that's really cheap and let them have the opportunity to really make what they want is a real plus. So
speaking of the Savage and the Slate, so these Lumerian, they're the figures on the left here. The Lumerian is on top, on left, and on the bottom is the Lumerian Slate. Could you tell us the difference between the two and why that Slate is only $15?
Sure. So the Slate is actually molded in that color. That's why it's so cheap. There's very few paint apps. The mouth and the eyes are the only thing that's painted on that figure. And it's just putting out a figure that other people can paint. The Savage is about $25, and that has a lot more paint apps, but it doesn't have all the armor accessories and things of that nature. And that's why it's just a little bit cheaper. What's unique is something I've learned, and Bobby probably knows this for years, something that what really drives up the cost in an action figure is the manual labor of having to hold the joints in place when you mold around them. And so that's where a lot of your expense comes in. And so things that don't require extra labor to do just makes it cheaper. It makes a lot of sense. So that's why that Lumerian Slate is so cheap, because there's not all that manual painting that goes into the figure. So it's literally comes out of the machine and it's almost done except for putting it together.
Cool. Yeah. So the Slates are basically, they're a blank body, but they're mostly unpainted for the customizers.
Yeah, and you've seen like they call them, what do they call them? Some people refer to these as not paint masters, but art masters, or I can't think. I think Warhammer puts out a gray version. 4 Horsemen does a limited run of these.
McFarlane calls them artist proofs.
Artist proofs, yes, and I think 4 Horsemen calls them test shots, but they're not really test shots. As we all know, test shots are usually just leftover plastic and they're multicolored. They're not very aesthetically pleasing. So yeah, but I mean, they're still cool to have if you have seen the original ones. Some of the Star Wars ones, you see those guys and they're freaking thousands of dollars, those old ones. But yeah, so from that standpoint, it is just molded in a nicer plastic to give it a look. And so we actually did some test runs. Jason over at AWOC was really nice to let us use some of his molding to do some of these metallic shimmer paints that I wanted to test them out, because they actually have these like tiny little granulars. It looks like a metallic flake. I haven't seen it in an action figure before. So it came out pretty good. In the first run we did, it works really well on flat surfaces. So it gives it a sort of a reptilian amphibious look. So I think even though it's going to be in all plastic, that's still going to come out pretty neat.
Cool. So that's wave 1 there. You got Como of the Isles. You said he's the hybrid human and Lumerian hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
And Nin, some of these names you're going to pronounce them for me, huh?
Yeah, Nin Villamere. We didn't try to trick anybody on spelling.
Nin Villamere. Okay.
Yeah. Most of them, they sound how they look.
Can you tell us a little bit about Nin Villamere? I mean, because you're producing a comic for these characters as well.
Yeah, so we have a 56-page graphic novel that's already out, and the second one's already been written. All the characters do have bios, but we're slowly releasing them. I'm still doing some editing on them. Nin Villamere has a very unique background. He has this human witch that he's in cahoots with. So he's actually an ex-general and just an older guy. So he actually comes with a slightly different torso. The upper torso has a long neck, which you can't really tell from this video or from this angle on the pictures. So interesting character. The bios are coming. I was actually working on them this week, and they should be up to the website relatively soon, at least on wave 1. So, and then the Royal Guards have an interesting story, but I want to save that. The Imperial Sentry, the conclusive idea is just something that I wanted to, and Bobby, you can chime in anytime you want on this, but the problem I always have like Kickstarter exclusives or con exclusives is it's kind of a turnoff to certain fans. And I don't want to exclude people, but at the same time, it is nice to get something when you go to a convention. So the idea is that make a figure that's exclusive to the Kickstarter, so you can order it online. But then after that, the only place you can get it is if you actually come to conventions and see us at certain conventions, but not make it exclusive to any one convention. Just make it something that you have to buy in person. So that's the idea behind the conclusive. And so that way that in the future, when we have quote unquote convention exclusive figures, it's not exclusive to one convention, but multiple conventions. So
that was when I was at Hasbro, that was something they started doing where they called it a fan channel exclusive. So they started doing it with a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive because they were like, well, we want to sell more after the fact. So let's do a higher run, then we'll call it, a global fan channel exclusive. So that San Diego had it. And then, other fan channels had it, other conventions, that sort of thing. But you're right. It's like when you do an exclusive, every time I've ever shown an exclusive, there's always someone complaining. I showed Warpath Eclipse. There's always that person like, well, I'm not going to Joe Fest. Yeah, but listen, man, that's like, it's nothing new. It's nothing new in the toy industry. Like, it's not like the exclusives are a new concept. So I was like, I get it. Don't get me wrong. Like if there was a convention exclusive in the UK or something like that, I'd understand that it came with the territory of collecting, and I was just going to pay a secondary market price. And if I really wanted it that bad, I'd pay a secondary market price. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword. You want to make something special, but at the same time, you can never please anybody in this business. It's almost like a thankless job sometimes.
This is why we can't have nice things. The amount of people who've contacted me over the Vintage Desert Rat being a Joe Fest exclusive, and they think that you should just make 50,000 of them and put them in retail stores. Like, it doesn't. First of all, it doesn't work that way. But do you not think that the people who are making that extra effort to travel to Joe Fest and pay for airfares and hotels and go and meet people in person, do you not think that they actually deserve a little bit of something? A bit of an exclusive? Yeah, I think they do.
Yeah,
I do, but I also think that it's not a hard ask just to make it exclusive to all the conventions. So for us, we're going to do multiple. And so that, at least within the US, it gives you a regional chance to get the figure. And so that makes it just a little bit more easier of an appeal for me to swallow.
Yeah, that seems like a really good compromise.
Yeah.
For the and that was the conclusive Imperial Sentry, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think there's still going to be a secondary market on it. I think the first time it comes out, people will still buy it in mass at a convention and still rush over to eBay and list it, and that's still going to happen. But you don't have to make that price. You don't have to pay that price if you don't want to. There'll be another shot at it. So giving people multiple shots at it and making it at least more geographically accessible, and still creates that opportunity for people to still feel special because they came to a con.
Yeah,
that's how I look at it. I don't know if it's going to work out the best way. You can have a great idea or think it's a good idea and it not work out the way you want it to. We'll just see, right?
Well, I mean, look, I think that's a great way to do it. You're kind of pleasing both camps. And Bobby, I know you mentioned how Hasbro does fan channel exclusives. I can't tell you how many fan channel exclusives I've seen warming the pegs at GameStop, right? So you give people more opportunity to get them. they'll get them. And if it's, there's a risk it's not a hit, but I think with this, you got to hit. I mean, obviously with the way the Kickstarter took off. And so Kickstarter went live, blew up, and you unlocked Wave 2 at, what was it, 242,000.
Yeah.
So how long did it take to hit that? It wasn't long.
I don't know. It was less than a week.
Yeah.
I don't remember at this point. 3 days, maybe 2 days. I don't remember.
It was pretty quick because when I saw this is what really, this wave really caught my eye and kind of sold me on the whole thing. And it was this Frazetta, officially licensed Frazetta warrior with ball and chain. That is so cool to me. Like these guys, these human characters, as cool as Lumerians, and we're going to see some others in the next wave. These human characters really spoke to me.
Yeah, I think most people are pretty split. I think people either like Wave 1 and Wave 3 a whole lot, or they really like Wave 2. Of course, there's some people that like everything, but yeah, and the Frazetta license was fantastic. I've worked with the Frazetta Museum before. I actually got a license with them about 2.5 years ago to do some Death Dealer parts for add-ons to Mythic Legions, and so they were very gracious. They barely made any money off of it, and they were just Lori was very nice to me in regards to humoring me, her and her husband Frank. And so when I went back to them and kind of explained what I wanted to do with their license that was a little bit different than what other people have been doing with it, I wanted to start with more obscure characters. I mean, Frazetta has this huge, massive library to offer, and people only, pretty much for the most part, only ever do 2 characters. They do Death Dealer and they do Conan, and that's pretty much where it ends. And there's just a massive catalog of characters, and so I wanted to start with a lesser known character, and sort of work our way up to the more well-known ones. So that's sort of my pitch to them. They really liked it, and so yeah, I thought it was a huge win for the Savage Crucible line, and I can't thank them enough. I think everybody's gonna be pretty happy with some of the next characters we have coming out. So we'll see how that works. Jaeger was one of the first characters that we shown, and he originally wasn't going to be in the first 3 waves. And then at the last month, I decided to put him in just because I felt like that people were going to be really upset that we had been teasing Jaeger for the first year and he wasn't going to be available in the first 3 waves. So that was really important to us. But overall, we'll see how it does. I think so far this response has been fantastic. And once again, you kind of see the theme that we're going with. We're using, for the most part, one base body and making a lot of tooling around that base body to make each wave a little bit more accessible at the factory.
I mean, there's a lot you can do with, different gear on the same base body, right?
Oh, yeah.
So they all look pretty unique to me. And I don't even hate, a lot of reuse. I mean, I collect Marvel Legends, and that's kind of what that line is, and although I do get kind of burned out sometimes with Marvel Legends and the reuse, I think this is done really well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And selfishly, I hope you do get around to Death Dealer, because stupidly I didn't pre-order the Mezco one. So I don't know.
It's on the list. We'll definitely do one. But if we do one, it'll come with a horse. And yeah, we'll go full. Yeah, there's you can't half-ass that. I think that's the one of the most requested things that they get actually is Death Dealer actually with a horse.
Yeah, that's cool. Absolutely.
We'll get there.
All right, we do have some super chats and some questions from the audience for you. So I'm going to take a little break from going through the campaign. We got a super chat from M Vargo 97. Thank you. He says, "Have a great show, guys. I'm a little under the weather, so I'll watch this back later." Appreciate you, M Vargo, as always. We got one from Tony Robles. Thank you, Tony. "Have a wicked show, fellas. Congrats to Savage Crucible Wave 3.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. And we got one from the Canuck. Thank you, Canuck. He says, "Hail, oh great and wonderful Bobby and Tony. Hail to the somewhat cool laser shorts. Hello, chat and mods. Congrats, Savage Crucible, on a great start. Looking forward to this line. Let's roll, folks. Very cool. Thank you, Canuck. Articulated Ninja says, Tony, you look like you're getting in shape for Valicon.
It would have been easier to just stay in shape from last year, but yeah, I'm trying to get back in shape.
You're looking like Who Man.
I have a request, Bobby. If
Yeah.
you're making t-shirts for us all at the booth this year, can you do them in black, because it hides the physique a bit better?
I was thinking of what color I was going to do this year. I was thinking maybe OD green, but I mean there is something nice about black.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe I'll do two versions so you can
Didn't
pick.
you do green last year? The OD.
I did tan.
Oh, that's right. They were tan.
Yeah,
Okay.
they were tan.
All right. Greg Finstad says, congrats on Savage Crucible Kickstarter going so insanely well. And then we got Renato says, Savage Crucible, he was the #1 backer. He was the first backer to the line.
Oh, nice.
It was.
Yeah. I've seen few people pushing the line as hard as Renato. So shout out to him. Thank you, Renato. Oh, we got a super chat from Justin Wine. Thank you. Ryan, it's Crucible, not Crushable. Lol. Did I say Crushable?
It's just an accent thing, Ryan.
I might have said Crushable. Thank you, Justin. Drew G says, never underestimate a hungry customer that wants to move to a company that treats them with respect. Excited for you, bud.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's very true. Thank you, Drew. Renato says, my action figure customs has some of the best parts.
We try.
Is that something you're still running concurrently with alongside the Kickstarter for
The
Savage
shop,
Crushable?
the website's still up. The shop's closed down right now, just so I don't have to ship out orders. And we have about 30 printers in the shop that run, so that does take a little bit of effort, and I didn't want to mess with it while the Kickstarter was going on. So, but it opens up back on April 2nd. The store will open back up.
Oh, okay, so that's something you plan to keep going. That's cool. Right
To a
on.
certain degree, yeah.
Okay. Bobby Collins says, I almost paid $400 for a Mythic Legion's Knight on a horse earlier today, but then I remembered I'm not an idiot. We need less expensive 112 mounts. # action horse. Bobby, action horse in the future?
No. There's too many good horses out there already. I mean,
Yeah.
Mythic Legion horse is really, really nice. I mean, it's too big for my guys. I didn't see the one McFarlane did, the build a horse, but I have a feeling that thing is huge also. So yeah, no one's really done a true 6-inch horse yet that would fit Action Force guys, but I don't want to be the first one to do it.
Yeah, it's like you got
don't-
Figma's a bit too small, and then McFarlane and Mythics are a little bit too big.
Yeah.
You don't think Colonel Siege needs a horse?
I mean, he'd be awesome on a horse, but
He needs a horse, bro.
stop trying to talk me into doing a horse. I gotta get a vehicle out first before I get a horse out.
He needs a horse with that minigun mounted on top of the saddle.
Yeah, that would freak the horse out.
World Made of Cardboard, thank you for the super chat. My youngest daughter is in the core at Texas A&M. She is in first platoon called Praetorians. I showed her your figure. You might sell a bunch at A&M.
Nice,
Cool.
Nice. Maybe we can do a small one-day convention at Texas A&M. I'll come down there. I hear it's a good party school.
What's Texas A&M?
It's a college.
It's a college.
Yeah.
Articulated Ninja, thank you. Rob wanted more articulated mythical figures and said, F it, I'll do it myself. I personally cannot wait to get those Piranoids in hand.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's a true story.
Good. You have a true story?
No, that is a true story. I mean,
yeah.
The articulation, yeah.
Absolutely. And our Ninja is an army builder, so I imagine he got a bunch of those. Thank you, Ninja. We got one from Freakasaur. Aren't Hasbro figures mostly molded plastic with no paint apps? And they are way more expensive. Yeah. The fact that you've been able to keep your price point where it's at, Rob, is especially with the Lumerian slates. That's impressive. That's very good. $15 for a basic figure with extra hands and a weapon.
Well, I don't pay licensing fees. Not that Hasbro pays licensing fees for G.I. Joe, but I also don't have any corporate overlords telling me to crunch out an extra 3% every year. So, yeah.
You also love what you're doing.
Yeah.
You have a true passion for it. Cutthroat Comics, thank you, sir. He says, I am wondering, once you pledge, are you charged right away, or do you get charged if the Kickstarter is fully funded?
You get charged when the Kickstarter is fully funded the last day when it ends. If you put in a large order, and I don't know what the dollar amount threshold is, it seems to be around $80 to $1,000. If you do that, they'll put a ghost charge for about 10 to 20%, and it lasts for a couple hours on your credit card.
Cool.
So you won't get charged until April 1st. Yeah.
All right. Master Son 42. Thank you. I'm going to Joe Fest to get the new Eclipse. Hope all is well and you are all healthy, except Tony. I hope you have violent diarrhea. Jesus. Aussie hugs, he says.
Nah, that's not the problem this week. It's the bloody pubic lice, but whatever.
Oh my God. Oh, yeah. My kid, we'll be fine, but my kid came down with COVID today.
Oh,
so
has he had it before?
Yeah, me and him have had it before.
Yeah, I knew you had. I didn't know if. I'm still a COVID virgin. I still don't have it. I swear to God, if you're a heavy drinker and smoker, you're actually immune to COVID.
And if you live in the desert on Tatooine, you're
yeah.
Yeah, you just drink that blue milk and you're fine.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Master Son. We got one from Marcus Dana. Thank you. I'm about 20 minutes behind as Rob talked about what races will be in the following waves. We know of dwarves. Will we get elves, orcs, goblins, and undead? I guess we could answer that right now if you want to go into it or tease it or something.
Sure. Yeah. No, I have talked about how Wave 4 will have dwarves in it. And yes, there are certainly other races coming in Wave 4, 5, and 6.
Awesome. There you go, Marcus. And then Jeremy, I knew this one was coming. Thank you. Is there a shade darker than black to hide Ryan's physique for the t-shirts, Bobby?
Well, I was thinking Jeremy could just loan you his orange life preserver from his Coast Guard job.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. And go in there looking like a large Marty McFly. Thank you, Jeremy.
I could make the shirts like a blaze orange. I mean, the booth that they gave me is 4 booths, so it's massive, and it's twice the size as my booth last year. And you saw my booth last year; it was enormous.
Wow!
So it's right in the center. So I was like, I could just be obnoxious and get bright orange shirts. So just there's gonna be like 6 or 7 of us there. Might as well just put it all out.
You're gonna do the laser lights, right? You're gonna have.
I was thinking about that. I was looking to see because I had a sign on some some steel trusses, and it was about 10 feet high. And I was like, you know what? I don't think that's obnoxious enough. Now, granted, you can see it from every corner of the convention. But I said, I think I want to find a guy, and I think I want him to do some cut metal, some cut diamond plate or something, and then put something behind it and have it light up and have it be the giant Valaverse logo lit up on all 4 sides. And I thought that was obnoxious enough. So I think I'm going to go that route.
You got to go strobes too. Strobes and
sirens.
What
is the ceiling like? What is the ceiling like?
Oh, it's enormous. The ceilings are like 30 feet high. The place is enormous.
Then what you really need is a projector pointing towards the ceiling that shows Action Force all the way.
That's a good idea.
Right, that's it.
Rob,
more phallic.
My man. Yes. I'm getting a damn projector, and I'm going to put Action Force everywhere at that show.
Rob, is Joe Fest a con that you are going to do?
I've thought about it. I mean, I live in Alabama, so I know how huge Joe Fest is. Like it is actually amazing how big that show is given its location.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine, he has a toy store in town. He goes there all the time. So goes there every year rather. But yeah, it is definitely a show that we'll entertain going to because it fits into the regional idea that we'll go to a different region once a year or once a quarter. So certainly a show. It's not fantasy based, obviously, but I mean the attendance is just massive. So
yeah. If you're looking for one up here in the Pacific Northwest, Washington State SummerCon.
Gotcha.
It's better than Emerald City Comic-Con, which is like the big one. But yeah, because Washington State SummerCon was built around being a toy show.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not 40 different B-list actors showing up.
Right. Well, I mean, they've gotten into that too, but it was originally built around being a toy show, so that's kind of continued on. Okay, we got a super chat from Northern Nomad who says,
emotional damage.
Thank you, Northern Nomad. Appreciate you. We've got some more here too. Let me get through a few more, then we'll get back into the campaign. World Made of Cardboard, thank you. My wife and I will be at Joe Fest 28th wedding anniversary. Hey man, congrats. We will be able to bring our Desert Rat figure. Will we be able to bring our Desert Rat figure to get it signed?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll sign it. No problem.
A bag of potatoes you'll be signing.
See, now that you said it. Oh, geez. Okay. Steven, thank you. Tony, you put the thought in Bobby's mind. Watch him go to the drawing board on a future horse.
I got too much ahead of that. Not going to happen.
Need a cane.
Not going to happen yet, Bobby. It's not going to happen yet.
Again, I got to get this vehicle off the ground first. Let's, now that Todd McFarlane messed up vehicle pricing for everybody. I'm like, shit, I can't wait to get the costing on this thing.
Good old Toddy Mac. Woo. Mike Espinoza, thank you. The meme master himself. With Crucible and Action Force, I need to sell blood for money. Well, I mean, that's an option, right? What do they pay for blood now? I don't know.
I think you donate blood. They pay for sperm, though.
Oh, there you go. Sperm.
They pay for plasma.
Yeah,
like
plasma.
marrow or stuff like that.
Okay.
I mean, listen, I'm going to let people start signing over like a small portion of equity in their houses. Things like that. I'm going to start, different sort of, payment plans for people, just because I want to make Action Force accessible to everybody. So if you wanted to, sign over something or, what have you, I'm open to those, those bribes as well.
You've got to be very specific, though, because the amount of people I've seen in 3 POA chats going back months now who actually want to offer you their children. And I'm not.
Listen,
I know you don't want that.
Two's enough. And I don't like other people's children. I like my children. I don't like other people's children. So I don't think I want anyone's children.
Very true.
I'm good. But I mean, listen, it's like, I don't know, ammo is kind of hard to come by nowadays still. So
paying ammo.
Paying ammo.
Renato, thank you, sir. He says, much love to you all. Rob, congratulations on what you, the team, have accomplished with this amazing line. Did I already read this? No, I didn't. The talent behind it is awe-inspiring. Also, best podcast, gents. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Renato. Articulated Ninja Reviews, another one? Bobby's version of a horse will hopefully have 4 wheels. Rob, will you be attending any conventions this year?
We'll be in PowerCon this year.
Oh, cool. So will I and Bobby.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Good times.
There'll be a lot of indie toy companies at PowerCon this year. So it'll be interesting.
All right. We got one, Kevin's Travels. You could borrow something from Jeremy's mom. Might be too big, though. Got him.
Wow.
Dang.
Gavin is on fire tonight. I've started a few of his chats.
And he's got COVID.
I mean, at the end of the day, what's he got? A cold? Little sniffles?
Yeah,
Isn't that what
barely
COVID is
the
nowadays?
sniffles. Yeah. All right. Greg says Jeremy needs some aloe. Gavin just burned him. Light up the boulevard with the big Valaverse symbol.
You know it.
Bobby, don't put the cart before the horse. Jeez. I'm not starring these, by the way. That's Tony starring these. Okay. Yeah, this one. Okay. A World Made of Cardboard. Thank you. Getting her Desert Rat figure signed has my wife grinning. I will bring some potatoes for Ryan to sign so he won't feel left out. Well, thank you. World Made of Cardboard. All right. We'll take a break from the super chats then because they're still rolling in. But I do want to get back to the campaign here. So you got, let me hide this one. There we go. You got the Wave 2 was unlocked at 242,000. With that, and man, that Jaeger's cool too. I don't know if I said that, but and soft goods possibly by the Strupp family.
Yes, Jaeger will come with the cape.
Yeah,
we're working on that as well.
We were able to, me and Jeremy talked to him and Nikki Nicole on Wednesday. That was a good show.
And then the Warrior Ball and Chain also will have a soft good cape. He'll also come with the plastic cape as well. But I'm not as huge of a soft good person, so while I certainly appreciate the detail that Mezco can put to some of their figures, we don't have any plans for that amount of soft goods going on our figures. So,
well, most of them are almost naked anyway. So,
yeah.
All right, then Wave 3 was unlocked. That was also unlocked at 242,000. Then
you could place your order for it. It had to get up to, I think it was like 360 to guarantee the time frame that we were going to ship in. So
okay. And this is the underwater guys, the Piranoids.
Correct.
And so you continued with the slate figures as well as the fully painted like army builders and the gear pack there. The Harbinger of the Abyss, very Cthulhu vibes, and you mentioned you were a big Cthulhu fan.
Yeah, and so I was working with an artist out of Canada named Taryn Fiddler. He has a huge following on Instagram. He's a very talented artist, and he was doing some concept work for me. And I wanted, I love to give people kind of vague directions to go in just to see where their mind will go with it. And that's just sort of letting them express their creativity. And so I think that started out as like a cultist monster. And he came back with this just fantastic design, and I immediately knew the character that he was. So yeah, he is definitely a Cthulhu kind of mind flayer / D&D inspired character. He is in the graphic novel in one form or the other, and he is one of the 3 major bad guys in the first massive arc in Savage Crucible. The Piranoids, once again, just great creatures. If you've watched or read any of Lovecraft stuff, a lot of the fishmen come into play in a couple of them, but we didn't really want to overwhelm people with the savages and the slates and putting them in every wave. Mm-hmm. Just to be quite frank, we didn't know how they would play, especially the slates. So we just wanted to tease it out. And so that's something that we'll probably do maybe every other wave from that standpoint. But it's just an idea that we're working with. So, you got to be flexible. And I'm sure Bobby can tell you, ultimately people vote with their wallets on what they want. And you have to be flexible enough to make sure that you don't overstep or go overboard in one direction and you don't underproduce in another, right? So it's all going to come down to what people buy and how much they buy, whether we go forward or not. Because if something's popular, I'm going to give it to people. But if it's not very popular, then that's not where I really need to put my time and my resources.
Well, I mean, having 3 full waves unlocked at this point, people definitely have options. And it's obviously a great army builder line.
Yeah. And the great thing about it is if you look at a lot of the parts that are in this wave will fit on the previous 2 waves. So when you go back and you look at just the amount of deltoid armor, forearm armor, shin armor, waist pieces, they're all, very unique. And so you can take pieces off the Piranoids and put them on the Lemurians and the Barbarians. And so going across each one, you can definitely come up with some unique characters. So there's no reason to think that you're kind of locked in terms of the pop and swap ability. So, and as we've hidden it in our Facebook group, we've already created heads for different types of characters based on different armor sets. So While we don't plan to overuse tooling, we will reuse tooling, but you won't see it in the same format. It'll be in a different format. So, and there'll always be a couple new pieces on every figure.
Cool. Speaking of this Wave 2 Who Man, Freakosaur says LMAO Who Man. Did you want to kind of explain that?
Sure.
For those that don't
when
know?
you read the graphic novel, the narrator and the main character in the graphic novel is never actually named. And so a character in the graphic novel refers to him as a Who Man, as in human. So it's a play on the word human. So that's just how he pronounces it. It's not a reference to He-Man or anything of that nature. It's just a reference to that he's actually unknown what his name is in the graphic novel.
Okay, cool. There it is. So we got Wave 3. That is fully unlocked at this point. I got the Kickstarter pulled up here, and you guys are currently at 389,000. Man, wow. There's still plenty to unlock, though. You do have, lots of stretch goals.
Lots of stretch goals, but nothing new that anyone has to purchase. All the stretch goals are just be included with already pre-existing items. So they're just little tidbits, little pieces to go on belts, painted shins and forearms for certain characters, and then a couple characters where you didn't have an extra head through the character pack. So, they're not really big pieces. They're little small pieces that we knew we could fit into the waves to add a little bit of character building and make each little pop and swap unique.
Yeah. The first one was this bullwhip attachment at 345. That's unlocked, and that's coming with the Lumerian character pack. Mm-hmm. You got the trophy skulls, which are pretty cool. Again, if you have the Lumerian character pack, that's included, and then a lot more stuff like that. The handcuffs. This is unlocked 365. You got the scroll belt attachment. So all these can kind of plug into the belts.
Yeah, so all the belts have like at least 2 to 3 hole ports in them. And so you can pull those pieces off and sort of customize your belt on what you want.
That's really cool, especially for the army builders that want to make each, trooper look a bit more unique. And then this was the last one to get unlocked. This was unlocked, I believe, on Wednesday, because that's when me and Jeremy were live with Sean Strupp and Nikki Nicole, and you unlocked the conclusive alternate head 385. This one will probably be unlocked in I would guess a day or so, because you're at 389. You got to get to 395, and then this is added to the the Sentry belt and armor from Wave 1. So that's cool. And there's plenty more to get to as well. I mean, we could forearms and shins for Lumerians, more head sculpts, just all kinds of stuff, all the way up to, I think, 585,000 was the last one. This one really caught my eye, though. At 500,000, you unlock an STL file for the Abysmal Throne, which looks pretty rad. So
Daiquiri Bush over at Almighty Legends, who has that one Kickstarter going on right now, he had a great idea, I thought, to offer as some goals an STL download. And he made like 2 heads that you could have as an STL download at the project funds. And I thought it was a fantastic idea. So when he told me about it, I was very blatant that I was going to steal it from him. And he obviously laughed, and he said, "No, I knew you would love it." And I think it's a brilliant idea, actually, for a stretch goal. Not everyone can use it, so that's unfortunate, but it does bring in a lot of the customizing and 3D printing groups, right? So, and there's no reason you can't take the file and upload it to, there are third parties that will print the file for you, or the files. There's definitely more than one file. So producing this was just not a realistic option, but when Rubus did the drawing, I thought it was just too awesome not to have someone sculpt it out for me.
I mean, that's a lot of tooling for a stretch goal.
That's a massive piece when you think about how big the figures are. It's huge. And so, yeah, you'd put, I don't know, $25,000, $30,000 into something just in tooling, just to have like what?
Yeah.
So 1,000 of them, maybe, if you're lucky.
Right.
Like it's a unique piece, and it only fits with really one character. And it's, we thought about some different ideas, maybe making a throne a little bit more modular, maybe getting some more use out of it. If the line really gains some huge popularity, like some other lines out there, then maybe you can do some pieces like this every once in a while that are sort of one time off, really great, display pieces. But beyond that, it's a pretty tough sell.
Yeah, and I mean, if you've been in the toy community, collecting community for any amount of time, you at least know someone with a 3D printer that could print something like this.
Yeah.
So if you have the file, you can make it happen.
We'll probably see the Action Force horses before we see this throne produced.
Right. I think it'll be unlocked, man. I mean, like, as far as being a stretch goal, the STL file, I think it'll be unlocked, no problem. Because, those last couple days on the Kickstarter, we know that it kind of explodes again.
That's the hope.
Go ahead.
Who?
I missed what you said there. What was that?
Who?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I think my screen froze.
Oh.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
You never went.
Okay. That was weird. I think you guys froze for me. And then we got more head sculpts for Jaeger at 505. So all these stretch goals go up to 575. 575,000 is the last stretch goal at this point. So there's definitely a lot to get to. I mean, I hope you get to them all. That would be amazing. Yeah. Very cool. Okay.
Even if we don't, I'm okay. It's been a wildly successful Kickstarter. It's a great start. So I'm very pleased with where we're at. Even if it ended today, I'd be ecstatic. So
right on.
I've just seen it jump up like in the last 2 minutes.
Oh yeah, it's at 30. Yeah, it went up $100 and some.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wow.
You don't even have to refresh it on Kickstarter. It does that itself. Maybe we should do a giveaway if it gets to 390. I'll do a giveaway. If it gets to 390 during the show, how about I'll do a giveaway?
The only thing would be perfect if he pulled up a bag of chips right now. That would be.
I hope you have to post a sack of potatoes to Russia.
About a Pandora. Pandora. I'm giving away Pandora if it gets to 390. It's at 389, 532.
So, Bobby, I got a question for you. Were you surprised how well the female sold?
Well, yes and no. I knew that the females were a gamble. Just because my time at Hasbro, I worked on my fair share of peg-warming female characters. Now, my experience was with superheroes, but I always felt that it's not all females that are peg warmers. There could be really, really great female characters. And if you do a great character, it's going to sell. But, because the females were all new tooling, I knew that they were going to be something that came later down the line. And, I kind of, put all my eggs in one basket. I said, well, if I have to tool up one female figure anyway, I might as well do a whole wave of them, because you're never going to know how female figure sells unless you do them. So I said, screw it. Let's pull the trigger. And I am pleasantly surprised. Like I thought that I had great characters and I thought like these were going to do well, but a lot of them have taken me by surprise as far as, when I looked at the breadth of them. You try to figure who's going to be the top seller and where you think your MOQ should be because of how the characters would sell, and they've all outperformed what I expected. I thought I'd have Eclipse around longer. Her MOQ was about the same as Pandora, and Pandora was the highest because I knew she was going to be the top one, but Eclipse was the first one to sell out. And to the point where I had to put another order in for another run of her for May. So yeah, I mean, I didn't think she'd sell out. Kill Switch is getting very close to selling out. So I'm just like, oh man, like, am I gonna have to end up like, reordering the whole series? It's like I had to do that for, my series 1 stuff. That's why how I introduced the special deployment series was just reissuing figures and sprinkling in a few new figures at the same time. And I thought I'd only have to do that like once, but it turns out now I'm on, I think, my 3rd or 4th special deployment series now, because I have to reissue so much. And now it's like I almost have to reissue a reissue. Like the Steel Brigade's sold out. The reissue of Steel Brigade's sold out because now there's so many new customers coming onto the line that they're trying to go back and get these figures now. And they're like, well, when are they going to be available? And, I feel bad because, I want the new customers to come in and be able to get everything. But it's like, well, we kind of did that figure already. We got to move on to other things. So, it's tough. But yeah, back to your original question. I had hoped the females were going to sell well, and I was confident that they would, but they outdid themselves for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, we're in the same boat. We're thinking really hard about how we want to approach females. So, and obviously, there's a lot of people screaming for any of the Frazetta females, which is in itself its own unique design aspect. So, it's a risky proposition and how you approach it. So, I don't think people realize how much money you can put into something like this, and you can go south very quickly. And from that standpoint, when you have a dud, you have a dud, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like
Yep.
Yeah. So, anytime you can learn from anybody else, you always take that opportunity.
Yeah, I know. When I was starting, I was asking a lot of people about, their experiences and things like that. And then even, with the Kickstarter failing the first time, it was a lot to kind of learn and change and do differently. And it's an interesting thing to step back and watch now because, Kickstarters became a hot thing 2013, 2012 through like 2014, because you had like these kind of startup companies like Marauders came out, the Boss Fight guys got laid off by Hasbro. So they started their company. They came out with a Kickstarter. Four Horsemen started one early, and Kickstarter crowdfunding was this new concept, and people realized like, well, we can get stuff done. And, but then it also caused a negative impact where you saw a lot of people, and this is where I get sort of critical about, new toy companies that come up by people that don't have the toy experience, or at least any sort of manufacturing experience, because they saw, I could do a crowdfunding, and making a toy is easy. It comes off and it gives this false sense of being easy. But then what people don't realize is you got to have a good factory. You got to have a good project manager. It's a continents, oceans away, and it's a different language. So you got to make sure you're dealing with that. You got to know production. You got to know the terminology. You got to know costing. You got to, figure out your costing, which could end up being a year before your final production payment is due. So if you do a Kickstarter and you set your goal too low, and then you get your bill, you're like, oh crap, which probably happened to the Army Alphas guy, and he took people's money and run. I just think he got into it and he didn't realize like what he was doing. But after those first ones succeeded, then through like 2015 through like 2017, you had a run of a bunch of Kickstarters that either funded and didn't deliver or didn't fund. And, it put a bad taste in people's mouths. So that by the time I launched mine, it was on the cusp. It was like people were still burned, because I remember seeing a lot of comments like people saying, I'm going to see if it funds first. It's an unknown company. I'm not gambling, even though you don't get charged unless it funds anyway.
Right.
But there were a lot of people kind of stepping back, and, the first one failed, but then the second one, it's like, I think I ended up bringing in $350,000 for the first one, which sucks when I look at all these great ones now, and I'm very jealous of all these, yours and other people's that have funded, and it funds in, less than 24 hours, whereas mine was like 15 days, and you're kind of sitting on the edge of your seat waiting. But then it was like mine had the luxury of like having COVID and delaying production, so that I was able to just keep taking pre-orders, and the line just built and built and built. and we hit such a huge monumental amount of sales for Series 1, even though the funding on the Kickstarter was on the lower side. But now it's like there's this resurgence of more Kickstarters showing up, and like you have experience with manufacturing 3D printing, so you understand the game. I'm weary of a lot of these other ones. People coming in thinking it's an easy game. It is not. It's not. I've had conversations with people, and I've told them, the amount of money I put in to start this thing before the Kickstarter even started, and it was an incredible amount of money. And you gotta have some balls to risk that and to gamble. You can't be half in. It's an all-in game. Like, you're not saying, I'm gonna try this. You're not really trying. You gotta go all in. You gotta be 100% committed to doing it and seeing it through. Otherwise, it could fail, and it could fail, horribly, or fail on the back end. It could be something where they have a successful campaign or pre-order or something like that, and then on the back end things just become a mess, and then it's a problem. It's like if your hard copies or your tooling files aren't correct as they go over there and say they're at 100%, and the factory thinks they're at 104, and then they shrink them down or 4%, then it's like your figures are smaller. Or that can go the other way, where if they're trying to increase 104% and they were already at 104%, now you're at 108, and it's still coming down, and then you have a big figure. So it's all those things that you have to have the knowledge of. It's like I remember talking to someone doing a Kickstarter, and I asked what their MOQ was, and they said, "What's MOQ?" And I just kind of went like this, like,
Yep. Oh yeah.
All right.
Yep.
So we can end this conversation now.
We got another successful toy maker in the chat. Ramen Toy Ace, what's up? He says, "No try, do or do not." Yoda.
No, it is crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. And you talk to people, and they haven't even talked to a factory. They don't even have an idea. I mean, and I know that some people got in some serious trouble, and me and Bobby probably know a couple of companies actually got deserted by a factory at one point and got saved. But when you hit that send button on that wire transfer, you damn well better know who the hell's on the other end of it.
Right? That's scary.
There are people actively trying to scam people out of their Kickstarter money. They desperately are trying. I can tell you where people have sent figures saying that this was produced in their factory, and they're full of shit. Like that. So it is definitely a scary world out there.
That sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it does. And you hit that send button, and you don't have the money anymore, and there's no way for you to replace it. A lot of these guys, because they're just doing it on threads and needles, basically trying to put something together. And yeah, it's interesting.
It's definitely I mean, it's not as bad now, but my butt has puckered a good amount of times when I'm sending a wire transfer. I remember one time sending a one that was like over like $500,000, and I was just like, "Is it right? Is it right? Wait!" And I checked things like 50 times, because I was just like, "Man, this is wild. This is an absurd amount of money."
So for those people that don't know, if the bank accidentally puts money in your account, you're liable for it. You can't spend it.
I know.
But if you accidentally send money to the wrong person, it's gone.
Yep.
You're not getting it back.
Yep. Guess what? Garrison Calvary, I just made a $509 pledge.
Oh.
And that put it at over $390. We're at $390,246. So I'm giving away a Pandora. I got a sealed Pandora right here. Here's how you're going to enter. I'm putting a link in the live chat. That's our last video here on 3POA. I uploaded a video of my Action Force collection. Go to that video, and in the comments, type Savage. One word, Savage. That's all you type. Savage. Leave one comment. Duplicate comments don't count. Type Savage in the comments of the video that I just linked in the chat, and you are entered. And at the end of this show, I'll pick a random winner, and I will send you a Pandora. And I won't limit it to the States, although I really hope you live in the States. But yeah, there we go. Garrison Calvary, thanks. I think he alone pushed it over the 390,000. I should have made it 395 because that would have got another unlock for the campaign as well. But there you go. Cool. We're giving away a Pandora.
Yeah, maybe you'll get stuck sending it to Canada.
Yeah.
Like I always have to.
All right. We do have some super chats and questions for you, Rob, from the audience. So the first question for Bobby. Thank you, Jeff McElway. Bobby, would you accept Toddy McFarlane's 4-comic Batman run in exchange for Action Force? Asking for a friend who's about to lose their comics.
You mean like what? Trade those? I don't know what you're asking.
McFarlane drew 4 Batman comics back in the day.
Oh, he did? Oh,
Yeah,
back
yeah.
in the day. Yeah. Yeah, when I was at the show, I saw the one issue where he's holding Vicky Vale on the cover, and people wanted I thought it was just a common issue, and there were people trying to get a bunch of money for it. I'm like, there was nothing special about that issue besides it being McFarlane's first issue on Batman. But I feel like for some reason there's been a resurgence of McFarlane comics because, and I actually was lucky enough to pick up a graded copy of Spider-Man 300, but people were trying to get ridiculous amounts of money for McFarlane's first Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, whatever number that was.
3, yeah.
Chad probably knows, or Drew G probably knows. But yeah, so I guess those Batman ones are good. But yeah, man, I'd be open to a trade. I'm always looking to increase my Batman collection.
There you go, Jeff. Cool. All right.
Yeah,
and then we got one from TJ, our friend in India. Thank you, TJ. He wants to know, good to see you all. When's the next Action Force podcast?
You got me, man. I don't know.
We just had a huge weekend, tons of Action Force stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be doing a lot leading up to Valicon, so there will be more coming. I would love to put more on the channel just because you guys dig everything I put on there. I just don't have the time. But I do have ideas for things that I teased on during Valifair that I need to fully reveal before before Joe Fest. I did say there were 3 or 2.5 exclusives, and I only showed 2, so there is a third one kind of floating around out there that I still haven't shown yet. So we got to get to that.
Send me a photo and I'll accidentally reveal it early.
Shit, man. I've never ever been mad at Tony in my life. I was almost mad. I wasn't mad. I was just like, come on, man.
If it makes you feel any better, I've been beating myself up over that. I feel really bad about it. So
I thought it was hilarious.
We turned.
I didn't think it was hilarious.
We turned it into something funny.
Yeah.
I was just like, really? Did that just happen? Come on.
Can I quickly tell the story? What happened? So I'd already been having internet issues. Obviously, it started the day before on the 3POA, and so we logged in that morning, and I'm like, all night I was like running through my head. Because Bobby's kind of sent me some show notes, so I knew what order we were doing everything in and got everything set up. And I sit down, like, I'm prepared. And then Ryan put us all in the green room to start the show, and my camera disconnected. And I couldn't get my camera to reconnect, so I had to reload the browser page. When I reloaded the browser page, all of the photos I had at the bottom were no longer, preloaded. So I went to load them, and it just came up on the screen. I was like, fuck.
Yeah, that was pretty rough, but I laughed. Thought it worked.
I mean, the good thing is it's not like we were waiting for the end of the show to reveal it. Like, he was the first reveal, so that was kind of okay. If it was if you had showed the last one, at the beginning of the show, we probably wouldn't be friends anymore.
I don't think I'm getting invited back, but aren't you on a podcast tomorrow?
I am. I am. Yeah.
What podcast?
I'm on Articulated Chad show tomorrow night.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, you got to plug that stuff, man.
Sorry, I don't have enough. I don't have the bandwidth to plug my own shit. You think I'm going to remember to plug other people's shit?
I mean, that sounded weird, but okay.
Well, yeah. plugging shit left and right around here, baby.
All right, we got a question from Greg Fenstad for Rob. Greg asks, are you planning on your Savage Crucible neck pegs on being sized to be compatible with heads from any other lines?
No, I don't. I mean, if they are, I mean, I haven't really spent any time swapping other heads on there, just because it's not that hard to switch heads or add a little tack if you really want to, if you think it scales well. So I don't really, I'm not saying it won't, because as we must know, most things are done in metric. So sometimes the ball size will be the exact ball size of a different toy line, just because of sort of coincidence. But beyond that, no.
How about uniformity within the line?
Very much so. I mean, that's the whole point, is the pop and swap ability of the forearms, the waist pieces, the heads, the shoulder, the deltoid armor, all of that. So
awesome.
Massive amounts of pop and swap ability there.
That's the way to do it, man. I recently learned that you could swap the male boots onto the female bodies in Action Force. Someone
really?
posted that in the yeah. They pop right on, and it works great.
People would love to ask you those questions. I'm like, I really haven't spent that much time. Like, I'm so busy just trying to get the designs out, much less like trying to figure out all the more imaginative ways of people, even in bringing in other brands. Like, that's just, not something I have time to even think about.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Greg. 13th Warrior asks, will there be wolves and werewolves and lycanthropes in future waves? And Rob, you don't have to answer that if it's you keeping that under your hat, but
no, I mean, I think actually, no, it was Gordon on a different podcast. He actually showed an early prototype of a werewolf that we had already 3D printed. I'm pretty sure there's some art up on, we have art on the website. We have 2D art and 3D concept art as well on the website going back several years. So I don't think that's a big secret.
Cool. That's what website?
SavageCrucible.com.
SavageCrucible.com. Cool. All right.
I can confirm, though, that there will be lycanthropes in Series 4 of Action Force.
Oh. Spoilers.
Stop.
And a kangaroo for Desert Rat.
On a horse mount.
We got a super chat from Andre Cologne. Rob, he would like to know how long before we see a Woo Man. You kind of.
It's a great question. We're working on it. That's all I'm willing to say right now. We're working on it.
All right, thank you, Andre. Action Figure Atorium, who, before I read a super chat, I just want to say to him, Mark, I got your letter along with your Joni Loves Tchotchkes. I got your official Toy Guru membership club cards, which I am going to include with at least one of them with this Pandora giveaway. So whenever I do a giveaway or ship something to someone, they will become an official Toy Guru.
Nice.
Hey, listen, you just can't take that name and just spread it around like it's free.
I think you
can. You gotta earn it.
When you were telling that story before, Bobby, about that whoever that person was you were talking to, and you mentioned MOQ to them and they didn't know what it was, part of me went, at least I know he doesn't watch that idiot.
All right, Action Figure Atorium. Thank you, Mark. He says Force Lights and a head pack is brilliant marketing. You should consider making that its own SKU.
All right. I can see it.
Thank you, Action Figure Atorium. We got one from Inglorious Max. Ryan totally promised to score me an Eclipse at Valicon. No, I didn't. P.S.
Listen,
The Witcher. Go ahead.
I'm going to say it right now because all of you pestered Ryan and I don't like it.
It's not that bad.
Don't ask anyone. If you ask Ryan or Tony or anyone else attending Valicon to get you one, you're on the list. You're not getting one.
I would love to get one for everybody, but Yeah, my luggage is only so big, and I got to turn down everyone if I turn down one person. So, he says, "P.S. The Witcher McFarlane horse is smaller than DC and fits Valaverse great, even Pandora. Good to know. Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you, Max."
I mean,
Samuel Edwards.
read into this whatever you want, but loads of people asked Ryan to pick them up at Warpath Eclipse. Not a single person asked me. So,
So you're a dickhead.
you're just too nice of a guy, mate, and nice guys finish
You're
last.
just a dick.
Oh, Samuel Edwards. Thank you, Sam. He says, "To the best show on YouTube." Thank you. Bobby, you're my hero. Cool.
I shouldn't be anybody's hero.
He says, "Best customer service ever." Thanks again, sir. All you guys are the best. Thank you, Sam. Appreciate you, man. We got one from CC Grimm with the question, 3POA podcast, what's with some of the extras like the coins? Just bonuses to add to the collection, or what about the decoder? So yeah, if you go all in wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, you do have I don't know if you call them challenge coins, but they are, well, you tell us about them, Rob.
So yes, I was in the military. I was in the Army, and so I'm well versed in challenge coins. That's what spawned the idea. And essentially, I wanted to give people that bought like an all-in something a little extra. And I thought a challenge coin made in, a thematic challenge coin would be a great idea. And so we went with that idea in terms of how we wanted to market the line when we first started out. So going back to about March, February last year, we sent out this massive decoder ring, and it uses has some glow in the dark features, and it spins in the middle, and we sent it out in coded messages. And basically the top 90 people in total purchases from the MAFC website over life got the coin for free. And it was a viral marketing effort that was pretty successful given all things considered. So you didn't know where it came from. It was a bit of a mystery, and it had a message that you had to decode that sent you to the website. And so in addition to that, we wanted to give everybody that ever had purchased from MAFC up to that point a gift as well, because that money was what was used to fund Savage Crucible in effect. And so we had a Matt O'Toole, who's a practical effects guy in movies. He's done a lot of the makeup on like the Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings series, going back to like Dog Soldiers, just a great, very talented guy. And he came up with this awesome dwarf coin design. And so anybody that had ever ordered from us, we shipped out one of those coins to them for free. And that was sort of our viral marketing effort in the beginning. And so in keeping with that idea, the coins are they're heavy, they're nice material. It's a really nice piece. It's a display piece. People see them, they pick them up, they want to play with them. And so it's just a cool little add-on for collectors. And that's all it's meant to be.
You got a few challenge coins yourself then?
A couple.
Yeah.
People dig that stuff a lot. I toyed with the idea of doing a challenge coin. Closest thing I came was doing poker chips. But I know like early on, a lot of people ask like, hey, you do challenge coins? You do challenge coins? And I've had several people, the first couple of years I was at Joe Fest, give me challenge coins. Like they brought their challenge coins and gave them to me. And I have a friend who's in the Navy, and every time he deploys, he gets one. He brings it home for me. But yeah, that stuff's cool. So it's awesome that you did it and then tied in the decoder ring with it. It was smart.
Yeah. And we'll have some more. I mean, actually, there's a coded message in the unlocks that no one's even figured out or even brought anyone's attention to it. So maybe some fanatics will go over there and figure it out now. But yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a great piece. It's very economical to do it from a standpoint. It's a very high quality piece, but so it doesn't break the bank from that standpoint, giving something really cool. But yeah, outside the military, most people don't know anything about challenge coins, and it's just a really great little piece to collect. I felt like.
Cool. All right, we got one from Scott Hughes, $10. Scott, thank you to help with the shipping charge of Pandora. Man, I appreciate that. Thank you, Scott. Timothy Hance, what do you guys think about some stop motion action short videos on the Valaverse channel? That's your channel.
I mean, like, yeah, I will admit I've I've thought about it, and I was saying before how the YouTube channel, it does really well when I post stuff. I just need to put more content on there. I just had a call with a company last week or the week before about them helping me create content. Like, I would tell them what we want to create, and stop motion was an option we were looking at, as well as some live action stuff and things that help tell the story. But I'm investing in time and funds into putting more content on there, just because I want to grow the brand as big as possible, and I want it to be more than what it is. And the only way to do that is just to keep expanding.
All right, cool. Thank you, Timothy.
Don't ever ask me to do stop motion for you. No way.
It's time consuming, right?
There's only a handful of guys that are like really, really good with it.
Yeah.
It's not
it takes forever.
It takes forever. And I think you have to be dedicated to the craft to do more than is necessary to make that shot, not look as, Harry Hughes, and nothing against Harry Hughes, but it's like that stuff was very, glitchy and stuff like that. But you see stuff now, there's, Big Bad Toy Store, I think they use a company that just to promote lines, and their stop motion is really, really nice. But it's I've noticed it's started, like, people are starting to catch up with each other. Like, toy photography, there's a ton of good people now that are like amazing. Stop motion, it's not a wide range yet. Like, there's a handful of guys at the top, and then there's kind of like a larger gap in there. But I see those guys catching up, and soon I'd give it another like 3 years, and there'll be like a ton of dudes at the top that do really, really great, animation.
I'm just waiting for AI animation.
What was that?
I'm just waiting for AI animation.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's got to be coming.
No, not far apart from a point of them being able to take a picture of one of your figures and then turning that into an image and then just doing an AI animation from it.
If it was that simple, let's go.
I mean, it's pretty wild right now. So
it's coming. I dropped the link in the chat again for the giveaway. You click on that video, you type Savage, one word, only Savage, in the comments of that video, and you are entered to win this Action Force Pandora. So do that at the end of the show. I'm going to pull a winner. We got a super chat from the EOD King. Tony feels bad now. Wait till Bobby forces him to sign every one of those figures. You're signing all of them, right, Tony?
He's definitely signing all of them. I felt bad before, like making him sign everyone, but now that he messed up on the reveal, he's I don't feel bad anymore.
So EOD King, you say I feel bad now. I've felt bad about it for 2 weeks, bro. So just continue beating me up. And
it's fine. It was funny.
It's not. I'm mad at myself, bro. I'm mad at myself. It's not.
Don't be.
Oh, little Tony.
There he is.
Hey, there is. So no one's asked me to get a Warpath Eclipse, right? One person has asked me to get the vintage Desert Rat, and I'm going to do it because it was George Aitken. And if it weren't for George Aitken, I never would have gone down that rabbit hole of making all of those vintage Action Force videos that I did for YouTube. George has been such an incredible supporter of this channel. So big shout out to George. I'm not sure if he's watching today but yeah, I will definitely be bringing back a vintage Desert Rat for George Aitken. He's the only person. No one else.
I was thinking that we gotta send one to George and Bob, so we could send them out when you're here.
Yeah, definitely, Bob. Yeah,
I haven't seen George yet, but for sure, I second that sentiment for him. I did want to say, Greg Fenstad says 351 here. Poke that like button to help the channel. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate that. Yes, please hit the like button. And then we got another question from Brian Rowland, who the F I was sharing earlier. Thank you, Brian. He says, there it is. Talking articulation, the forearms and calves look like they also pop off for swapping. Is that correct?
That is very correct.
Cool. There you go. More options. I like it. Thank you, Brian. And then we got one from Garrison Calvary. Man, my computer's lagging for some reason. He says, thank you, Garrison Calvary. Ryan, I think I was the first to do the boot swap on the female figure to make her shorter. Thank you. Yes, that was you. Bobby, thanks for signing my Bloody Pandora last weekend. That's right. He was the one that got to meet you at the Con in Massachusetts, was it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Con in Mass. Yep.
Right on.
Yeah. I'm not jealous. Bobby never signed my Bloody Pandora.
Really?
Oh, well.
Oh.
It wasn't something like I've told you guys. I never expect to sign this stuff, and I don't know why people want me to sign this stuff anyway. But it wasn't something that I was just doing for my friends or anyone like that. But I noticed as we were filling orders, there's like a part in the order where you can put in a note, and we noticed when we were filling the orders, they were like, "Hey, we're getting a lot of requests for you to sign the Bloody Pandora." I don't know if it's because my artwork is on that figure or what, or I've said that she's my favorite, but the requests kept coming in. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to sign each of them. And then, I said it on here and people started putting more notes in. So I'd say like 50% of the ones we send out, people request to be signed.
Yeah, I think it's definitely because of the artwork, but also it was when I think it was Articulated Ninja's video. He had a signed one. And when I saw that you'd done it in like metallic red ink,
yeah,
I was so mad that I didn't get a signed one.
All right, so we're at about an hour and a half right now. Before we get to the giveaway, I did have a couple questions I want to ask Rob. Just being that you went from 3D printing with myactionfigurecustoms.com into the full-blown injection molded action figure, factories in China game, what were some of the biggest challenges that you met in doing that?
So I'll say this. I'll say that most companies' challenges are finding sculptors that have actually worked for actual toy companies. There are plenty of people that are 3D sculptors who have actually never had anything mass produced at the factory. And so there is a huge difference in understanding the tolerances and the cuts that you need, depending on just what different plastics and how the plastics interact with each other. Because sometimes you're going to have PLM parts, sometimes you're going to have PMC parts, PWC parts, and the coefficient of friction between those is different than if it's on PVC versus PVC. And so each company, and Bobby can tell you this, a lot of the big guys like Hasbro and Mattel, they have very strict numbers on their tolerances. Those are the tolerances that they're willing to accept, the cuts and things of that nature. And so those guys all work on a contract basis, and they pretty much load up on their work to make as much money as they can. So it's very hard for them to take someone serious to put in someone new. So I was lucky enough to work with like Arlen Pelletier, who does work for Mezco, Hasbro. I think he's even done some work for Bobby. A lot of work for Bobby. Yeah. And
he's been busy. He's been busy lately with that.
Oh yeah. And then Nick Whitmore out of the UK, who's done a lot of work for like Boss Fights, Lego, things of those nature. And so those guys were very gracious and listened to a lot of the other sculptors that have worked for me. And also, as Bobby knows, Dave is a former Hasbro sculptor and engineer guy himself. So he actually took the time to do a couple hour classes to really hone in some of the stuff that we were working on. So that's your first biggest leap, is just having someone that's really educated and understanding, especially when you're trying to bring some new articulation to the game that's not very common, in at least domestically in the United States. The next biggest challenge, as Bob's alluded to, is finding a factory that you can actually talk to and communicate to, and that it's trustworthy. So that's really huge. That's a huge challenge. And if you don't know who you're talking to and they don't speak English, that's a huge opportunity for just a lot of fraud and also a lot of miscommunication. So that's the reason why a lot of production managers are English-speaking people in the United States that are just trying to sell their services. But as we all know, there's really, to the best of my knowledge, only one English-speaking production manager that actually lives on that side of the planet, and that's Dave. So that's probably the next biggest part. And then I think after that, it's the funding. And so you spend just an incredible amount of money on tooling and sculpting before you ever, or most of us ever sell a figure. And so that's just, I mean, when people understand the cost of just one figure being about $35,000 roughly on a wholly new sculpted figure, you're quickly spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on tooling and something like the magnitude of Savage Crucible over 3 waves. So that's 300,000 out the door, and you haven't produced anything yet. So those are the huge hurdles. That's really what it is. And I mean, from that standpoint, there's just a lot of things that are unknown. You don't know the demand. That's a huge component when you're looking at pricing, because you do have MOQs, and you have to understand that. The next part of it is you don't have a retailer base. You don't have a fan base. You have to build that from scratch. And so getting the word out can be very, very tough, especially on certain platforms like Facebook, where rightfully so, you have a group and it's dedicated to one toy line, and those creators don't want you posting about other toy lines. That's taking away from their revenue, is how they perceive it. So it can be really hard to get your messaging out. So you do have to spend some money on marketing, getting your name out there in ways that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. So luckily, there are a lot of indie toy companies. There are a lot of fans of indie toy companies. So that's great. And there's a lot of creators like Bobby, like Jason, that do play nice in the sandbox and are willing to talk and share information and things of that nature. Another good person is Dan over at the RoboSkull guy. He's also been very helpful with information over time. So those are things that are really important. You got to have a network, and it helps you leverage ideas and missteps, and that's where it's really important.
So of all that, what advice would you give to a new toy maker who's maybe just starting to they're just thinking of starting out in this field?
You can't overplan it, is what I would tell them. You need to put a lot of thought into it. You need to get a lot of feedback, and I wouldn't do it in a vacuum. That's what I would recommend. So
cool. All right. Well, Rob, thanks so much for coming on. I did want to show the Kickstarter again, because it's up to $393 now. $393, almost $394, just $41 away from $394. And I think I said $395 was the next unlock.
Yes, it is. $395 is the next unlock.
There we go.
Bobby said if we got to 400 in the next 20 minutes, he would commit to making the horse. So
okay. Awesome. How about
Don't say that. I bet you'd get there, and then I'd have to do a horse. So I'm not committing to that.
All right. Well, hey, man, I'm pulling for you.
It had to be.
Well, it's not that big. It's a horse. Can
I do a little horse? Can I do a hobby horse?
I mean, yeah, you could. I mean, I guess.
I feel like Desert Rat version 2 could come with a hobby horse.
You should do Rob Deerdeck with his mini horse.
What's a hobby horse? Is that like a rocking horse?
It's a horse's head, like a wooden horse's head, or like a plush head on a stick, and the kids used to gallop around with like the broom handle between their legs. That's a hobby horse.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. A couple super chats, and then we'll pull a winner for the giveaway. Robert's Infinite Realms. Thank you, sir. Just want Ryan to read my typos. There you go. I read it. And then we got one from Jeremy Curry. Thank you, Jeremy. Planning on going to Joe Fest for the first time this year. Will there be any 3.75-inch Desert Rats left on Saturday?
We'll see. Depends how savage people are on Friday and Saturday morning. I mean, if it's anything like last year, we had a ton of stuff sell out day one. I have
a feeling.
I
have a feeling this year that we're just going to pack up at 10 o'clock Saturday morning and go home, because we'll be sold out of everything.
That'd be nice. I'd call it an early day and take that money. Let's go to the casino, baby.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Got a whole weekend in Augusta with nothing to do. Let's party, baby.
All right.
Thank you, Jeremy Kerr. All right, so let's hop over this giveaway. So I got, if you guys can see here, there's the link to the video. There's the filter comments based on this word savage. I'm going to get the YouTube comments. There's 120 comments, and I am going to pick a winner by clicking start. And the winner is Biff Jocko. Please be from the United States, but if you're not, that's okay. Scott Hughes contributed $10 to the shipping price. Biff Jocko, if you are in the chat, please say something. Biff Jocko. You know, at work they used to call me Biff.
And the white potato.
And the white, yeah.
Biff Potato.
Let's see if we got Biff Jocko in the chat. If not, Biff, reach out to me on the 3POA Podcast Instagram, and I will work with you to confirm your YouTube identity, and then I will ship you this Action Force Pandora sealed in the box. I'm not seeing him yet, but we'll take care of that later. A lot of congrats, Biff Potato. It started. I don't know why I said that. Okay. Rob, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, guys.
It's been great to talk with you, and it's been great to get a little insight into your line. God, this chat. Jeremy says, "I hope they live in Siberia." My God,
I was thinking
man.
Mongolia, but yeah.
You guys are horrible. Yeah, thank you all so much. We'll be back in 2 weeks, right, guys? Tony, Bobby, 2 weeks.
Hey, you're the boss. You just tell me when I got to be here.
Listen, I want to talk about Todd McFarlane's vehicles. So I think that's going to be our next show topic. Rob, any final words?
Thank you so much for having me, guys. It's been fun. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. I'd love to have you back when the line comes out and we have them in our hands. We could talk about them more and talk about the future waves 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. All right. We'll see you in a week or two. Thanks, everyone.